Yes, good evening and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. It's good to be back. We are back for our late evening broadcast. We are about 17 minutes late, but it's due to a noise in the neighborhood, and I do not know if we will be able to sustain this broadcast because it is a bit loud. And should we find out that we cannot proceed, we will unfortunately have to forego it this evening. And despite the fact that there is plenty for us to talk about, at least that's what I do feel. But should the situation persist as is, then yeah, we'll have to swallow the bitter pill and sort of let it go. Uh, hey, Pedri, how are you doing? Um, I do not know if this will propagate to you guys, but there's a bit of loud noise on the outside. There's a discotheque in the neighborhood. But let's see if we can soldier on and get to do this broadcast. But should it fail, guess my favorite African country. I'm going to assume it's Uganda. I'm going to assume it's Uganda. I'll be selfish and assume it's Uganda. Okay. If the sound is good, then we'll get going. I'm assuming your favorite African country is Uganda. I'm being as vast and as selfish as the suggestion does come, but you can still let me know what that country is in your own view, in case you feel in case I've gotten the guess wrong. So, but yeah, it's been that type of day. It's been bright and sunny down in Kampala, but overall, for me, it's been kind of a hard day to go through, given that I'm struggling with the cold and everything that line. But yeah, we'll do soldier on. Earlier on, we had a late evening broadcast where we talked about briefly the games between that game that Barcelona won by 7 goals to 3. Then we also spoke about the game that Arsenal lost. You say it's actually the Central African Republic because they signed a deal with Barcelona worth 40 million euros for Barcelona putting the flag of their country on the home and away shirt. Wow. Okay. I didn't know about that deal. Hi, Sam Dam. Hello, boss. How are you? Are you from Morocco? Sam is from Morocco. Hi, how is Morocco? How is Marrakesh? How are you guys? Are you guys well prepared for AFCON 2025? How is Morocco? Tell us, what's the environment like? What's the mood like? What are the preparations like for AFCON 2025 that you guys are going to be hosting? How is the mood feeling like? I know you'll be partaking in you're going to be part of the Africa Nations Championship that is being hosted this side of the continent in East Africa. So it would be nice to hear from you as some down. Then Adixi, hi Adixi, says hi Mbappe. Oh, is Mbappe your favorite player? Then we have Ali Pro, a 5G 1545. How are you doing? So for those of you that are just joining us, kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel and help your boy to 2,000 subscribers. Currently, we're at about 1,400 something. And then also, yeah, do let me know where you're joining us from. For those of you that are just coming in, what are your favorite teams? This is a football channel. And yeah, my name is Robert Kesakos, and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. Adik says XXD, you say, Pedro says he's calling Mr. Tribe Mbappe. I do not think I have any slight resemblance with Mbappe. Some Dam says just joking, but the final is gonna be Morocco versus Nigeria. Do you mean for the AFCON or do you mean for the Africa Nations Championships? That wouldn't be a bad final. That wouldn't be a bad final. Although I would love my country to be part of the final. I would love for Uganda to make it to the final. Oh, you mean AFCON? Okay. Wow, what a game we would have on our hands. What a game we would have on our hands. The losing finalists from the previous edition are plus Morocco would be really really something to look forward to. Where are you from? I'm from Uganda, particularly Kampala, Uganda. So, like I said, we are part of the host nations for the African Nations Championships. Um, not we write that there is no B and there is no C. Uh, it's a point of correction, Pedri. It starts with the K A and then M. Instead of a B, it's a P. So it's Kampala. Uh, so correct that, just to correct you. Then I think I missed a comment. Okay, I think I read that. We almost won the World Cup, so it's gonna be easy to win AFCON. Yeah, that's what we all told ourselves. That look, Morocco did it at the World Cup, and look what happened in the 2023 edition that was played in 2024. You guys did not make it, so it ended up with the host Ivory Coast. But anyway, usually the hosts do have the upper hand when it comes to winning a tournament like that. But it's all nice. Yes, Pedri, that's the correct word. Kampala, Kampala. Yes. It comes from a certain wild animal known as an impala. Uh, I don't know if you've heard about it. It looks like a gazelle, but yeah, I think Senegal is currently the second favorite. Um, I wouldn't disagree, but you see, when it comes to AFCON, usually, even when we know we've seen it multiple times that a country will come as favorites, they could have all the stars, particularly from Europe. Sometimes those countries from the northern part of Africa, Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, sometimes Libya. Forget the present day Libya that has been ravaged by war, but Tunisia. They used to come in competitions as a bit of an unknown quantity, particularly for people that do not follow their domestic leagues religiously. So you would have players from very very good players from within their domestic leagues that would come and surprise you. But also, it goes without saying that teams from the northern part of Africa are some of the teams that play the best or most entertaining football that you will get to watch. For some of us that have had, maybe the slight privilege to get to watch, or even from a distance, some of those are games from the CAF Champions League, CAF Confederations Cup. We've seen what teams like Raja Casablanca have done to our own teams, like Sevilla, Sports Club Villa here. I think it was 2015, when Raja Casablanca beat up against Sports Club Villa by about 7-0. So really, they do have that kind of quality of football when it comes to African football. Excuse me. Please indulge me. I continue to struggle with my cold. Some Dam says we are the first African country to reach the semi-finals at the World Cup. Boss, yes, that is true. That is true. But I mean, we've seen these things happen. Adix Got says good night. It's very unfortunate that you're leaving us really really early, but good night to you as well. Thank you for dedicating a couple of minutes to be with us tonight. I'm so proud at that. I would like to see more African countries reach the World Cup finals. Yeah, of course, that's what we would love. You remember Senegal in 2002 when they lost to Turkey in the quarterfinals. It was a bit of a contentious, kind of game because they thought the referee was, biased in officiating. Then you also remember what happened in South Africa when Ghana was playing Uruguay. That was in 2010. Luis Suarez handling that ball that was destined for the back of the net, and of course he got his red card. Samoa Gyan missed the resultant penalty, and the game was never the same. But that was a star-laden Ghana side that had under Ayu. It had I think Christian. It had Sule Ali Montali. It had I think the Kwado Asamoah, some of those players. It was a very, very good. I think John Pantasil was still with them. John Pantasil did play for Fulham at some point. So that's the kind of, a team that it was. So Kevin Priest Boateng, very, very good Ghanaian side. Then you say, Agafanov from Russia, hi to you too. Good evening. How are you doing today? Then Pedro says, if you're new to the channel, please like the video. Kindly consider subscribing to the channel. Wise man, thank you so much for that. Mention. Yes. That is very true. The way you stated it, Robert Kesakos from Kampala, Uganda, that's very correct. Then some Dam says this Uganda played the World Cup. No, no, no. Uganda has never played at the FIFA World Cup, but we played at the Africa Cup of Nations before, which we've never won, but we did reach the finals in 78, and I think close to Ghana. Then in 74 we reached the the semis. Then we did not appear in the competition for about 39 years, probably about 39 years before we qualified for the 2017 edition, and then we qualified for the 2019 edition that was in Egypt. Cameroon were supposed to host that edition, but due to mismanagement, it ended up going to Egypt. Then, then we also missed one edition and then went back at one point. So we are coming back. We will be in Morocco. Uganda Queens will be in Morocco to represent the Pearl of Africa. They will probably never qualify. Come on, do not be the prophet of doom and gloom. Pedri, do not be the prophet of doom and gloom. We will get there, especially in this expanded World Cup that has 48 teams. I mean, we do stand a chance. We do stand a chance. Fatlus Ari, hi, good evening. It's been a while. You have disappeared on me for the last 1 week or so, but it's good to have you back. It's always a pleasure to see you here on the broadcast. Anyways, my country can probably win it next year. Let's see. I can't rule them out. If that's Spain you mean, right? If it is Spain that you mean, then probably they are one of the favorites to win it. They're one of the favorites to win it, really. Yeah, you guys are one of the favorites. Having won the Euro 2024, reached the finals of the UEFA Nations League, you are basically a team in form. You're basically a team in form. I tend to forget your head coach / manager, but he's a very, very good guy. Badon Das says, hello, hi Das, where are you joining us from this evening? My thoughts yeah, you're a very, very capable team. You do have very, very decent squad, very good players in form. Lamine Yamal, Lodri, Martin Zubimendi, Oyarzabal, Unai Simon, I mean Marco Cucurella. Really, it's fairly a very, very decent side. Badon is from Bangladesh. Oh wow, okay. Good to know. Good to know. Sometimes your comments are delayed to reach my end, but thank you for joining us from Bangladesh. How is Bangladesh? What do I know about Bangladesh? I know about their crowded trains. I know about their crowded trains. They are very good at cricket. The cricket playing nation. So yeah. Excuse me. Then, anyways, guys, let's start off the discussion tonight. Lucas Paqueta has been acquitted of those, anti-betting breaches. He's been under investigation for I do not know what, for almost over a year. Because yes, for over a year really, because these reports came to the forefront. I think either at the start of last year or at the tail end of 2024. That's when we started hearing about these, potential charges of him being in breach of the anti-betting rules, and yet the investigations seemed to have gone on for forever. But yeah, it was broken today that he had been found not guilty of spot fixing by an independent regulatory commission. Paqueta was charged with 4 alleged breaches of being booked intentionally, but has now been cleared. He always maintained his innocency. Now, I think it was during the 2023-2024 campaign when these incidences happened. it was being reported that some people from his region, that's the small island called Paqueta in Brazil, were placing bets that he would get yellow cards in games, and he ended up getting, yellow cards. But also, I think part of what got him acquitted is that the bets that were being placed upon those, that speculation that he would get a yellow card were not really significantly very, very big bets, because if you're sure you're going to win a bet, then your stake in that bet will be really, really high. And part of it was that the bets were never high, were about £40, something like that. So eventually he's been acquitted by the Independent Regulatory Commission, which upheld the charges against Paqueta for non-cooperation with an appropriate sanction to be decided. So he's being accused of being uncooperative, maybe free uncooperative, when it came to the work of the charges. But anyways, Paqueta said, since the first day of this investigation, I've maintained my innocence against these extremely serious accusations. I can't say anything more at this time, but I would like to express how grateful I am to God and how eager I am to return to playing football with a smile on my face. He went on to add that to my wife, who never let go of my hand, to West Ham United, to the fans who always cheered me on, and to my family, friends, and the legal team who have supported me. Thank you for everything. So that was the simple message from Lucas Paqueta upon learning that he had been acquitted of those charges. Patrick Kakande, that's a pastor in Uganda. I do not know if it's the one you're referring to. You say I'm watching Sporting Club Deportivo versus SL Benfica live. Wow. Okay, that must be a very, very entertaining game. Pratham Sati says hi. Hi Pratham, where are you joining us from? Hi Sati. Iniesta or Zizou? I think I'll go Zizou. No offense to Iniesta, but I'll go Zizou. Excuse me. Oh yeah, names are very common within Uganda. So yeah, there's a footballer called Patrick Kakande, but also there's Patrick. There's also Kabugo. There's Kankonde. But usually when you say that name, usually people may think you're talking about the pastor. But yeah, he is a player that plays for Sports Club Peter. So, anyways, are you Nigerian? No, please. I'm not Nigerian. I'm Ugandan. But thanks for asking. I'm a Ugandan. Thanks for asking. Sati, where are you joining us from? Kindly let us know. Pedri says, Andres Iniesta, understandably so. You're paying allegiance to your country. I understand that completely, but for me it will be Zinedine Zidane. And then a former Fulham midfielder, João Palhinha, is on the verge of joining Tottenham Hotspurs on a season-long loan. Tottenham approached Bayern Munich with a deal to sign the player, and according to the latest reports, according to Florian Plettenberg of Sky Sports Germany, says Palhinha is on the verge of joining Tottenham Hotspurs on loan. Negotiations are very advanced. Only final details remain between Palhinha and Tottenham. An agreement between FC Bayern Munich and Tottenham is almost complete. A contract with Bayern Munich remains valid until 2028. So there you do have it. On the side of Tottenham, who earlier on beat up against Arsenal by a goal to nil. We'll get to discuss that game in just a bit. Then Sunderland have agreed a deal to sign Mark Boy from Chelsea on a season-long loan. Chelsea have never had an intention to sell Mark at this stage of his career, but they have always wanted for him to get more regular playing time, and they do believe that certainly he will get that at Sunderland. I think this is possibly the 7th or 8th player that Sunderland are signing. They did agree a deal for a goalkeeper. Uh, recently announced the signing of Granit Xhaka from Bayer Leverkusen. So they are making the right moves in as far as this transfer window is concerned. So when you look at their team sheet, it has Talawi, it has Mandava, it has Sadiki, it has Enzo Lifi, it has Simon Adingra, Granit Xhaka, and now they're adding on McCoy from Chelsea, which is really, really an impressive addition. You say Sunderland need to sign a big player in the attack. Well, big players in the attack, they're not very many on the market. If you're talking about an outright striker, there's not very many of those, unless they get one of those free agents to try and help. But it's a bit of a diluted market. It's a bit of a diluted market. Maybe Calvert-Lewin. I was about to mention that, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's that kind of player that can get you at least 10 goals in a season, or even 12. But excuse me, excuse me. But because he's so injury prone, sometimes clubs do not want to take that kind of risk. You could sign him, and then suddenly he has a hamstring and he's out for 2-3 months, and then things of that nature. So he's a bit of a risk when it comes to injuries. But yeah, they could ponder that. But let's wait and see. The transfer window is far from done. They can still go ahead and do that deal. Then Manchester City have part ways with their director of football, Baggeristen. Yes, there after 13 years at the club. So he's bid farewell to the club. Then also, more importantly, Everton have had a bid rejected worth about £27 million for Southampton England attacking midfielder / winger. That's Tyler Dibley. So Everton are expected to bid again, but the Saints are hoping for about £40 million plus. That's having previously valued him at about £100 million. I do not know who kids these Premier League teams, especially when they are, valuing their English born players. Yes, I know this whole thing of homegrown is a huge factor, but the kinds of price tags that are attached to English players is oftentimes very exaggerated. When you look at the amount of money that it costs clubs to buy some of these English players, really, you can't help it wonder to yourself. Because while Tyler Dibley is a good player, it begs the question that if you are bidding for Lamine Yamal, how much is it going to cost you? If they are valuing Tyler Dibley at £100 million, and at the moment they want £40 million, even a bid of £27 million is good. Is a good bid, by the way, for a 19-year-old who is yet to prove himself beyond the realms of Southampton. So you say, I really think he's such a mysterious player. One time he becomes the Messi of England, and one time he plays like Ansu Fati and Harry Maguire combined. That's huge praise you really, really piled on him. But in the 9 seasons he spent at Everton, only in 2 campaigns was he able to score 10 plus goals. And that was in the 2019-2020 season. He scored 13 goals. Then the subsequent campaign, 2020-2021, he scored 16 goals. That's when Don Carlo Ancelotti was in charge, because he was speaking one time in an interview and he said, what Carlo Ancelotti told him is, all I want to see is you in the box, and when you're scoring, when you're making an attempt, it has to be one touch. Receive the ball, one touch, like strike it the way it comes. If you need to control, shoot. He told him, there's nothing you're doing outside the box. What are you going to do? You cannot score if you're not in the box. And he was banging goals. And he of course he went on to tell some other stories that the manager was giving them, how he casually talked about some of the stars he's managed to coach, players like Alexander Pato at AC Milan and etc. So when it comes to the transfer window, that is the expectation. Then Manchester United have informed RB Leipzig that they will be placing their bid soon. That's according to Fabrizio Romano, who said Manchester United have informed RB Leipzig that they are prepared to send a formal bid for Benjamin Sesko if player accepts the destination. Newcastle also ready to bid since last week and to match Sesko's financial request. So looks like these two horse race for Benjamin Sesko between Manchester United and Newcastle is far from done at the moment, because while the player would prefer to join Manchester United, according to multiple reports, even though they do not have European football, he has not outrightly said no to Newcastle. So let's keep our eyes peeled to that situation. You say, what do you think of Real Madrid nearly getting rid of all their Spanish players? Gonzalo Garcia might get loaned out. Carvajal might leave the club due to low minutes ahead of Trent. So only Dinhausen and Carreras, but Raul Asensio is also there. When it comes to that, Dan Carvajal has really done it all in regards to being the white shirt of Real Madrid. So, and when you have a player like Trent Alexander-Arnold, I do not see why he would be even fast. He should be comfortable being a squad player, given his age and the stage at which he is in his career. Then Gonzalo Garcia, I do not expect him to leave. I think he's going to be one of those players that more often than not, Xabi Alonso looks to try and help him bury in the goals, especially when facing, especially domestically in La Liga. He will get the minutes. He will get minutes. He's already been getting them ahead of Rodrigo Gomes, so I believe he will stay. Then also, but yeah, there had been an expectation before the arrival of Xabi Alonso that he would leave the club, but Xabi Alonso's coming has sort of shifted that stance a bit. Then you also mentioned, which other player have I missed out? You see, sometimes these players ought to acknowledge that it's a period of transition, and every transition, strips out some people. That's just the nature of football. Look at all the clubs that have sort of flipped through a generation of players. They've had to, pick up the boom and strip it all out. Look at what Pereira did when he joined Manchester City. Of course, there's some of those that remained in the first, 2-3 seasons. When you look at players like Fabian Delph, players like Raheem Sterling was already there, players like Sergio Kun Aguero, players like David Silva, players like Yaya Toure. He stayed, I think, for 2-3 seasons into Guardiola's brain. But players like Joe Hart had to leave. Zabaleta eventually left. Garkliche. A good number of those players were shown the exit as they created room for all the others that came after them. So it does happen that a boom has to be picked up. Real Madrid have always moved through players. Look at how that generation of Cristiano Ronaldo was swept out. Sergio Ramos. Many of us thought his exit at Real Madrid was a bit premature. Karim Benzema, out he went the same door. So Real Madrid are no strangers to letting go of some of their most prized talents. You also say, because it's a World Cup season, yeah, I do understand that. But I mean, okay, I know he's one of those reliable lieutenants when it comes to the Spanish national team, but let's wait. Let's see. Testers of life are from Gauteng in South Africa. Says, how is it, man? It's all good, besides the fact that I'm suffering from a cold, but everything else seems okay. Maybe the other flip side is that Arsenal lost. So yeah, that tends to make run. Then there is a competition for Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro is one of those very, very good players, by the way. It's one of those very, very good players. And he had a very good game against Arsenal today. So we'll get speaking about that. So Man United are preparing that to make a formal bid, as well as Newcastle for Benjamin Sesko. When it comes to these bids, I think the two clubs, one can afford the player, at this stage. Two, they can all afford his wages, and or they are willing to commit to those wages because they all want the player. But at the end of the day, the decision will boil down to the player to decide where he wants to go. Still have the call. Yeah, why don't you try steaming? Maybe let me try that tomorrow. But thanks for the advice. I've been relying on some other mates, but the relief hasn't been that much. So let me try that tomorrow, or even perhaps after this broadcast. So, but thanks for the recommendation. So, anyways, quickly let's move on to the next topic, which is Arsenal being beaten. Now, Arsenal were earlier on beaten by Tottenham Hotspur by goal to nil. That goal was scored by Pape Matsa after Miles Lewis Kelly was dispossessed of the ball in that sort of middle of the park. Football Royale says, "Hi, bro. Who do you support?" I support football. Football is first love. Then the others come in this order: Arsenal, Real Madrid, and all underdogs. I've loved multiple Barcelona players over the years, but I've never been one to sit and cheer them on. I just enjoy the beautiful game that they do play. So yeah. Football Real says, "I support Arsenal as well." That's good to know. So Arsenal are beaten by goal to nil. It was that kind of game. Do you support any South African teams? Not really, but I do. I try to sort of follow on Ugandan players. I think Dennis Masinde Onyanga has made us fall in love with Mamelodi Sundowns. Then David Obua made us fall in love with Kaizer Chiefs. Then Timothy Batavaile played at Mpumalanga, the Black Horses. I do not know what happened to Mpumalanga. Then we had Moises Waiswa at Supersport United. So we've had a couple of players that go play from South Africa, really. So over the years, and Ismail Watenga was recently in South Africa until he suffered that anterior cruciate ligament injury, for which I do not know because his contract was coming to an end with the club in South Africa. I don't know who is taking care of him at the moment. So, but yeah, because of some of the players, Ugandan players that do play from South Africa, we do love, but most prominently has been Mamelodi Sundowns in recent times because of their success also on the continent. I remember one time when they came to Lugogo to play against KCCA in the CAF Champions League. Then they had a tour in Uganda when they came with Coach Rulani. So really, and then in 2016 they won the CAF Champions League. Their head coach at the time, his name eludes me, but after leaving Mamelodi, he went to Al Ahly in Egypt. So yeah, we know them now because of the Club World Cup. Yes, yeah, their brand has been further amplified by the Club World Cup, which they got lots of money out of. By the way, what do you think about United? What do you think about Man United? About United front three? If they get Sesko, do you think they will get top six? Top six. Really hard one, but I would consider them for the top 8 so far for now, because there's no guarantees that if they get Sesko, he's going to be a bank. He could come in and things do not click for him. But in regards to what I think about, I think you mentioned something to do with their front three. Their front three will remain. Ruben Amorim loves to play with 2 number 10s. So it will be either Brandon Bomo, Matas Cunha, and either Sesko or Rasmus Hojlund or Joshua Zirkzee or Chido Martin Obi, depending on what the manager decides. So, and then if there are changes, it could be Bruno Fernandes and Mason Mount, like he played in that game against Bournemouth. He played with those two. So, sorry, he had Amadou Diallo and Mason Mount as the 2 number 10s, and Rasmus Hojlund in the lines. Bruno Fernandes had been shifted to midfield to play alongside Casemiro. So, like that. But let's wait and see. Breaking Carlos Baleba to Manchester United deal at final stages by Sepp. And no, that's not true. I'm also supporting Arsenal. I would not be upset about I would not be upset about today against Tottenham. Friendly matches are to give new players a feel of their new team. I do not think I'm upset, but actually for me, I did like the loss because it once again re-emphasized the problems that Arsenal have did face in the previous season. And for example, for starters, they did struggle to create chances in that game, and that's been majority of that was their biggest problem. Last season, they didn't create enough chances. Let alone have any, a potent striker to bury those few chances that they were creating. So now the advantage is that they brought in a striker, an outright striker, but also their squad depth is still not good. Then also again injuries were a recurrency. We saw Bukayo Saka go off with an injury scare. We saw Leandro Trossard felt something, I think, in his groin or something like that. So yeah, the game in itself was a 50-50. I do not think there was any deserved winner at the end of the day because the goal in itself comes at the at the omission of the foul that was committed against Miles Lewis Kelly, but the referee chose to play on, and Pape Matsa looked that ball above over David Raya, who was beyond his 18 years box, so he could not retreat back. But also it was another moment of lapse in judgment for David Raya because he had Miles Lewis Kelly in the middle of the park, surrounded by three Tottenham players, which put him in a bit of a vulnerable position, and he decided to play the ball towards him as opposed to playing it down the right flank, where William Saliba was practically asking for it. So, and the manager was speaking in the aftermath of the game, and I think he said something like he was happy with the way they played, but again, let me try to find that quote and read it directly, as opposed to trying to paraphrase it, because it will make more sense once you guys hear it for yourselves in regards to what he said specifically about that result. Let me see. Yes, he said something like this: I am very pleased with what I've seen in most of the things we've done, but we miss something in certain moments. That preciseness, that moment that unlocks the result, the moment to turn the result our way. So particularly for me, where it says that preciseness, and with the preciseness, it comes with that quick pass that has to be played early enough for the next player to make a quick decision. Two, it comes with a breaking pass through a through pass that you wanted Martin Odegaard to give you, or Max Doman, which he attempted, but that ball went beyond the reach of Ben White at some point. Then he says that preciseness, that moment to unlock the results. When you look at Arsenal, while they've signed 6 players, majority of them have been replacements of those they lost. And yet last season, they already had a thin squad. So you look at it this way. Take away the players that were out on loan, in Albert Samuel Okonga, in Fabio Vieira, in Rhys Nelson, put those to the side. They've lost Thomas Partey, they've lost Jorginho, who is of course, Neto left, the goalkeeper, Raheem Sterling left, returned to Chelsea, he was on loan. Which other player? There's another player that did exit. I'm trying to remember the name. But so when you look at some of those players, the Kepa is replacing Neto. Basically, you bring in Noni Madueke as a replacement for Raheem Sterling, squad-wise. You bring in Christian Nogard as a replacement for Jorginho. You bring in Martin Zubimendi as a replacement for Thomas Partey. You bring in Christian Mosquera as a replacement for Takehiro Tomiyasu. Yes, Takehiro Tomiyasu was the other player whose name I was trying to find in my head. So those are basically replacements of what they've already lost. So in other words, so far, essentially, in terms of a squad building and addition, they've only added one player, and that's Benjamin Sesko, essentially, So for me, Arsenal are still half-baked if they do not add another attacking midfielder, if they do not add another left winger. And of course, I've mentioned this before. Earlier on in the summer, my preference was with one of those was Alex Baina. He's since left Villarreal for Atletico de Madrid. I at some point I did lean towards Ohan Sunset, but now for them they are looking at Ability Easy, a player that I also like. Then when it comes to the left wing, I think they need to really go big. They need to try and find that sort of quote unquote a bit of a marquee signing, whether it's Rodrigo Goes, whether it's Rafael Leao, whether they think they can break the bank and get Bradley Bacola, whether they think they can persuade him for Desiree Doué. I do not know. Whichever the player it is, I feel they need to fill those spaces in that squad. If anything, that's what that game showed us. Okay. Footballtribeug says Sesko will be under pressure from the start. Of course, that's what Rasmus Hojlund is playing under, and that's why in part it's not really looked good for him. Joshua Zirkzee, same story. Last season, they made an average of about 32 appearances each, and one scored 4 goals and the other scored 3 goals in the Premier League, so it didn't look pretty. It's the only time this season Spurs will beat us, hopefully. Rice or Burgers? Rice any day. Arsenal versus Manchester United. Do you think Sesko will try and prove a point for Arsenal not signing him? Whether he proves a point or not, that will all be besides the point. In any case, I do not think he has any point to prove, especially to Arsenal, because they had prioritized him as their preferred choice for a striker. It's his agent that sort of made that deal difficult. While, of course, without negating the conditions of RB Leipzig that seems untenable or unaffordable for Arsenal, or were above their valuation. For example, in the aftermath of signing Victor Gyökeres, we did learn that the Arsenal hierarchy had only approved a deal to go through if it did not exceed 65 million pounds for Victor Gyökeres. So when it came to the deal for Benjamin Sesko, maybe they had a similar fee in mind, and yet you had RB Leipzig are not willing to budge on their 90 million euro asking fee. Present day, because Liverpool have gotten Ekitike, Arsenal have gotten Gyökeres, Chelsea got Liam Delap and Joao Pedro, they've sort of softened their stance to come to about 70 to 80 million euros. In fact, according to the Athletic, they want 75 million euros as guaranteed fees. If that had been the case from the onset, because it translates to about 63 or 64 million pounds, I think Arsenal would have been able to afford that. But also, the agent was demanding for high wages for his client, contrary to what maybe Arsenal would have hoped. But I think they would have still could have found a way if RB Leipzig were willing to budge. So a lot of factors sort of worked against that deal. So let's wait and see. Then let me see. Arsenal versus Man United. Okay, I've read that. I'm 36 years old and I have an iPhone 16 Pro Max. I love Barcelona and Messi is my GOAT. Okay, that's good. You have an iPhone 16 Pro Max. Wow. I was about to say congratulations to you. Some of us are Android users. This is an S20 Plus. So you can imagine what's before me. Anyways, it's another Android gadget. Then Testa says, what are your thoughts on Max Bowman? It's Testa, it's Bowman, not Bowman. It's just a point of correction. Very exciting young player, but I think the English media needs to tone it down a bit on the praises, and I've already seen references that he at the age of 15 he's looking within the realms of Lionel Messi and everything to do with that. I'm like, turn it a bit down. Let's not overpraise this kid. Let's not have him get ahead of himself and his own development. While I want to praise him, I'm also conscious to the fact that overpraising young players, sometimes it gets to their heads, and then eventually they do not live to their own expectations. Particularly, I do remember back in 2006 when the headlines did read the England Messi in reference to Theo Walcott, and that's how he ended up earning himself a call to the World Cup squad ahead of Jamin Colin Defoe, who had done tremendously well at Tottenham Hotspur. So I do not want to take it that far, but he's a very, very exciting player. He looks good on the ball. He's not afraid to dribble past players. He's not afraid to take on players physically. Yeah, there's a bit of sharpness to him, and I think if if Mikel Arteta is bold enough, it will give him a bit of a selection headache, not because the player deserves to start, but in terms of the kinds of substitutions he makes. When it comes to players like Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, remember, bearing in mind that they brought in Noni Madueke as well. What have I missed? Okay. It's actually not Stoma. Okay. You fake fan. No. Be kind, Pedri. Be kind. It was a mere typo, probably. You do not know the name of your own players. Ha ha ha. No. Sometimes it's a mere slip. I saw him a first time against Newcastle the other day. My bad. It's all good. It's all good, Tester. Yeah, he's very good. He gave Newcastle lots of troubles. He was very electric. In first, within 10 seconds of coming on, Joe Linton had fouled him. He went on to foul him on another instance, and then he also fouled him to cause that penalty. So yeah, he's that exciting so far. Pedri says, "I'm joking. It's okay. Okay, no pun intended. He's a good player, though. Yes, I know, right? I'm talking about you. Haha. Read the comments before." Guys, remember when I read the comment, if it's a question or one that deserves a reaction, I have to give a reaction before I get to other comments. So if you've already responded to or corrected your own self, I may read the comment slightly a bit later. So indulge me on that. Max Dorman or Lamine Yamal, this is the next Messi versus Ronaldo. I think that is too early for us to say. Max Dorman is not yet done anything. Lamine Yamal has done for himself something in the game to the extent that he's, being considered for the Ballon d'Or. So let's not get ahead of ourselves in terms of those predictions. Who do you support? Mestro, he supports Barcelona. Barcelona all the way. It's Barcelona, Spain, and I think he does sympathize probably with the team from England. I do not know which one in particular, but yeah, that's my feeling. So it's not me who has the iPhone Pro Max. I meant you, Mr. Tribe. No. I use Android phones. I use Android phones. I can't afford the iPhones at the moment. They're very, very expensive. I do not know if it's just in my country or that's the case world over, but yeah, I'm yet to afford an iPhone. But I do know they're very good with video quality. Manchester City from England. Oh, Manchester City, probably because of Pep Guardiola. That would be one of the reasons. It's 10 euros in Spanish. That's a lie, absolutely. Unless you're saying an iPhone 4. Unless that's what, or an iPhone 6. Maybe that's what is 10 euros. But I know for a fact that a 16 Pro Max wouldn't be going for 10 euros. Why would it get released for over $1,200 and then it costs 10 euros? I'm joking. It's around 20,000. Around 20,000. 20,000 what? Because when you convert the price of a brand new iPhone here, by the way, by the time it gets here, you're coughing about 5 million Uganda shillings. That's what your 20,000. No, that's a lie as well. It can be 20,000 euros. You forget the euro, the currency, the euros is weighs more value than the dollar. So, anyways, so in the very context of the game, I thought Arsenal had a strong start, but again, it was one mistake that sort of defined their game. When David Raya had that lapse in judgment, I thought Tottenham Hotspurs played with a low block. They defended really, really well. They're the exact opposite of what Ange Postecoglou was in regards to how Thomas Frank is setting them up. Then once they win, they also tried to press well. They played with that kind of system where it's almost a back five when you're pushing to score against them, and then they have a back five, then a 4+1 player that sort of pops out. Then also you had They sort of created a very good competition for that midfield. They fought for the 50-50s, I think, more than Arsenal. Christian Nogard sometimes overdelayed with the ball. He needed to release the ball up much quicker than he sometimes did. That's why I think he lost possession a couple of times, about 3 or 4 times. So it was that kind of game, really. But it was everything typical of a London derby, regardless of the kind of environment it was being played in. Both teams tried to go for it. They competed really, really well. There was a bit of shenanigans in terms of the physicality of the game, involving Kai Havertz, involving Richarlison, and things like that. Tester says, English team, I am Arsenal, all the way Spanish team. I support Real Madrid, German team, Bayern Munich, Italian League, AC Milan, French League, Olympic Marseille, and in my country, I support Orlando Pirates. Orlando Pirates are, I think, are arch rivals of Kaiser Chiefs. Is that what, I think that's what they call the Soweto Derby, right? I only support Football Club de Barcelona, rice or drink water every day, please. Okay. Anyways, so I'm sure you already know what the starting lineups look like. They are pretty much what we did expect. Personally, I expected Martin Zubimendi to start ahead of Christian Nogard, but I think having played him for 75 minutes in that game against Newcastle, he probably needed to rest him a bit. Please answer: rice or drink water? I think I'll drink water. I'll drink water. I don't know if, as much as I love the rice, I do not know if you've never been thirsty enough and you're almost begging for a drop of water. So, anyways, so in terms, so yeah, my surprise was that players like Ben White, players like William Saliba, players like Martin Odegaard played a whole 90 minutes. Why do you need to play them a whole 90 minutes, even though you want to win? Give players like Ethan Nwaneri, a note. Get on Mali Salmon, give him minutes. It's a preseason game, a friendly. Even if I know Arsenal fans hate to lose to Tottenham, but even if you brought in youngsters and they ended up conceding another 2 goals, I wouldn't mind that. But give them an opportunity, assess them and see whether they deserve to be playing at the highest level and probably get a chance to loan them out. So you like Danny Drinkwater over Declan Rice, or no way? Recently, I saw a picture of Danny drinking water being reportedly working, apparently working at a construction site. But yeah, I think I would choose Declan Rice. Spirit of LFC fans, he means Liverpool fans, by the way, that's what he means. You're a football guru and know everything. You must have a season ticket at the favorite club for 20 years. I'm in Kampala, Uganda. My favorite club is Arsenal. I've never even stepped out of Uganda itself, so I've never had a season ticket. But also, when it comes to the football knowledge, thanks for the compliment. Although I'll acknowledge I do not know everything. Sometimes I've been asked about players, and yeah, like when it comes to the world of football, there's so many players. There's so many players. Even sometimes for the clubs we support, sometimes they tell you about a kid playing in the 18s and or under 14, and you're like, who is that? So, but yeah, let's donate for him to go to the Emirates. As much as I would appreciate that, 2,000 euros, I think it would cost. I don't even know what it would cost, but I do know the last time I checked, Uganda Airlines had a promotional. I think it had a promotional ticket of, was it $1,400 for a to and back air ticket to Gatwick, London, something like that. But anyways, first of all, I want to first improve on my podcast hardware. In terms get a better camera, microphones, and things like that, to improve on our sound quality and things like that. Probably get a better shooting space. But baby steps, we'll get there. We'll get there with time. But thanks for all the suggestions and the well wishes in that regard. So basically, that was the game that that was of Arsenal. Arsenal will have everything to correct. I think they will get back to London and self-correct. On August 6th, they will be up against Villarreal in the Emirates Cup, and then on August 9th, they will play against Athletic Bilbao. On 4th August, Athletic Bilbao do have a fixture against Liverpool, so let's wait and see. Then in the other game, Barcelona beat up against Seoul by 7 goals to 3. Yes, Barcelona had a very, very good game. Lamine Yamal dropped the ball before Barcelona conceded, I think, for their first goal. Because at one point it was 2-2. At one point it was 2-2. And then, of course, he ended up scoring in a brace. He ended up scoring the brace in that game. So that sort of debunked everything that he had done, or the kind of mistakes he had managed to commit in that game. So he walked away with it. Then Robert Lewandowski was one of those on targets for Barcelona. Andres Christensen scored from distance, very, very brilliant goal. I think similar to Lamine Yamal's first goal. Then also Ferran Torres did score a brace, and Gavi were those on target. On the other side, it was Cho Young Walk. Then Yazan Al Arab scored the second goal. The first half ended 3-2. Then Jung Han Min scored also what turned out to be the other consolation for Seoul. That's the team that Barcelona beat. I think Pedro was really, really happy with that, with the performance from his side. Of course, defensively, Barcelona showed that they can still concede. But like I said, I said at some point, I do not expect Barcelona to change that much. I expect them to be very electric on the attack, but they will also be vulnerable on the defensive side. Again, they will be looking to outscore teams. Then you say you have you ever said, I'm famous? No, I want to be famous. You want to be famous? Good luck. It does come with its challenges. When you become famous, usually privacy becomes a mystery to you. I will beat Jesse Lingard. My dream has been achieved. Your dream was to beat Jesse Lingard. Ever since I've been joining your live stream, I have to say I'm pleased to hear your opinion. So far, you are doing a great job. Thank you so much, Testa. Pedri says Lewandowski scored a brace, so it doesn't count. To be honest, a minute old baby can do that. Based on what I saw, it wasn't a brace for Lewandowski. I saw a brace for Lamine Yamal. I saw a brace for Ferran Torres. Oh, you meant it up. Okay, good. Yeah, I mentioned that he scored. He did open the scoring for Barcelona. And then only 6 minutes later, Lamine Yamal responded with the second goal of the game. So, and there's that ball he tried to loop in. It sort of came as if over the bar-ish, on the exact line, and as if it was dropping in, but the keeper managed to collect that. But I was waiting for somebody. It was going to be an easy tap-in for them. But Barcelona, by the way, fielded a very, very strong team. Practically the team that you'd expect in any given competitive game, because it was Joan Garcia in goal, Pau Kubasi, Ronald Araujo, Jules Koundé, Alejandro Balde, Pedri, starting with Frankie de Jong, Dani Olmo, Rafinha, and Lamine Yamal, Robert Lewandowski leading the lines. So it was a very, very strong Barcelona team. And like the expectation is in such preseason friendly games, there was a whole lot of changes to give other players. Evan Natic, Marcus Rashford coming in for Rafinha, and things like that. I think the bench. Oh, if you were a footballer, what position would you play? I think the bench, maybe. Why are you being that mean? It's okay. It's okay. I do understand that you're joking. I did play some football, but not at the professional level. Amateur kind of football. I used to love playing in midfield. But it depends on your stage of growth. When I was still younger, I love to play I love to play in almost all positions. The reason that's why I like to play as a number seven is because it gives you the room to run. You remember the traditional number sevens, they would run the entire line and then reach the far end of the pitch and then make a cross. Then at some point, because of Ronaldo Nazario Darima, I love to play as a striker. Because of Ronaldinho, I love to play as an attacking midfielder. But eventually, I love to play more as an eight, as I go to understand the roles, some of the different roles in the game. I did appreciate Francesco Sola Fabregas a great deal. So our tester says, I'm off now. Enjoy the rest of your day and get well soon. Do not forget, Steve. I won't forget. Thank you so much, Tester, for being part of us this evening. It's been a pleasure having you here with us. But yeah, we are also looking to wrap this one up because it's been 1 hour into the podcast and we have a whole day ahead of us tomorrow. I didn't get sufficient rest last night, so I want to try and go to bed a bit early today. Yesterday, I went to bed at about 2 a.m. Anyways, what team likes ice cream? What team likes ice cream? I do not understand the question. I'm joking. You will be RC7, CR7. I don't think so. I wasn't that great a talent in that respect. I love passing the ball neatly. And by the way, at one point I played as a goalkeeper, and in fact, for about 2 good years, I played as a goalkeeper. I remember one of my small schools, two of my small schools actually, I played as a goalkeeper. It's not a position I loved so much, but I remember goalkeepers like Oliver Kahn and Nelson Dida from the 2002 World Cup had inspired us that even if you're a goalkeeper, you can be a very good player and be important to your team. So yeah, Aston Vanilla. Okay. Anyways, so what else? What else have we not discussed? We've discussed majority of the news when it comes to transfers. Then anyway, PSG are closing in on Ilya Zabani deal. The expectation is that deal will get over the line very soon after positive talks with Bonema in recent days. Tottenham, like I told you, is one of those teams that are still interested in new services. So, but Zabani has already agreed to a 5-year contract with the League One champions. So we'll keep our eyes on that deal as well and see where it does lead. Then Chelsea are also close to agreeing a deal for Xavi Simons to get him out of RB Leipzig. So that deal, keep your eyes peeled to that. As of today, we are not yet gotten the green light from the Ajax board in regards to that deal for Joel Hato. Then Eberechi Eze's release clause does expire, I think, tomorrow, which is already today, because it's 20 minutes past the hour of midnight. So, and this is according to Ben Jacobs. He says Arsenal not worried by Eberechi Eze's release clause expiring after holding talks with Crystal Palace. Arsenal's plan has always been to bid below the clause valuation should they proceed with a deal. Eze remains keen on the move. I think he got scammed. What do you think of Claudio Echeverry's current position at Manchester City? Claudio Echeverry, I've seen he's been linked with a potential move, by the way, from Manchester City. But Man City, by the way, for people that do not follow Man City very, very keenly, it's one of those teams. You see how you see how Chelsea signs loads of players. Manchester City sign loads of academy players, those youngsters, and sort of in some way it tends to go under the radar, and then suddenly a player pops out, and you're wondering, who is this kid? Has he always been at Manchester City, and that kind of thing. But I do not think he got scammed. But sometimes players, even when they are assigned at the academy level, they do not progress as quickly as the signing clubs would have, hoped they would be, and eventually they do not get the breakthrough into the first team, which is always not a walk in the park because it's not easy for you to just walk through. Mamush is a very, very good player, very decent player. Ryan Cherki. I mean, Manchester City, by the way, have a very, very decent squad. If if all their signings, when you look at the signings they made in January and those they made in this summer, if they all click in one place, then Manchester City are going to be a very, very deadly team to face next season. The way you've listed them, Jeremy Doku, of course, coming in, as a replacement for Via Barres, Savinho, signed from from Girona. It's very, you talk about Ryan Cherki from Olympic, uh, excuse me, from Olympic Lyon, Omar Mamush coming in from Frankfurt. So really, uh, Kushanov, Victor Reis, the defender, Nico Gonzalez, of course, they've added in now Tian Rienders as well, Ryan Ashnori, one of the best left backs. That's the 23-year-old Algerian international. Also, Ashnori, because he basically plays like a winger. Nova Bro, hi, how are you? How is the going? The going is fairly okay. Just feeling a minor headache with this cold that I do have, but I hope to recover soon or later. Just keep me in your prayers. Anyways, guys, I think we should get to look at some of the latest, some of the transfer speculation and gossip that is making the rounds before we look to wrap this one as well. So this is the latest Lugambo, the latest rumor speculation as compiled by BBC Sport. We've already spoken about Tottenham's move for João Paulinho, the 30-year-old Portuguese international who they want to take on a season-long loan. Have a nice day. I've got to go. Nova Bro, always a short visitor, but we do appreciate you for being a visitor anyway. Have a good day as well. So RB Leipzig, among several clubs looking at Rasmus Højlund, and Manchester United could use the 22-year-old Denmark striker as part of the swap deal to sign the Slovenian forward Benjamin Sesko from the Bundesliga. That's according to the Athletic. Then Manchester United outcast Jadon Sancho is ready to accept a 50% pay cut as the 25-year-old winger eyes a return to the German Bundesliga side, Borussia Dortmund. That's according to Bleed in Germany. And then Chelsea are expected to make an offer for Manchester United's Alejandro Garnacho at 21 before the transfer window shuts and have no concerns over his character after a series of background checks on the Argentine winger. That's according to the Telegraph. England under 20 midfielder Nico O'Reilly will sign a new contract at Manchester City after they rejected two bids from a German club by Leverkusen. And that's according to Fabrizio Romano. While La Liga side Girona have agreed a deal in principle to sign Manchester City's Brazilian defender Victor Reis on a season-long loan. Then also Manchester City also want 19-year-old Claudio Echeverri to go on a season-long loan to Girona, with discussions ongoing between the Argentine winger and the Spanish club, according to Fabrizio Romano. And then Premier League duo Liverpool and FC Bournemouth have both opted not to match newly promoted Saudi Pro League side Naeem Essi's huge offer for Nantes defender Nathan Zezi at 20 years of age, according to TBR Football. Chelsea are interested in club Bruges Adon Jashiri, but the 23-year-old Switzerland midfielder prefers a move to AC Milan. That's according to Sacha Tavorile. Then Everton have had a 27 million bid. This one we spoke about, the bid for Tyler Dibling from Southampton. But then Everton will also wait until the final weeks of the transfer window to make a loan offer for Juventus and Brazilian midfielder Douglas Luiz at 27 years of age. I think Nico O'Reilly and James McAtee, one of them will be the next Palmer. They are very sought after by different clubs. I know Frankfurt wanted to sign Frankfurt wanted to sign James McAtee, but I think they've been priced out. Nottingham Forest are keen on the same player. Nico O'Reilly has been monitored largely by German clubs, including Bayer Leverkusen at Eric Ten Hag really wanted him as priority. Do you have medicine for the cold? Yeah, I've had, but so far it's not given me the impact that I'd hoped. So I'm looking to switch things up tomorrow. Otherwise, guys, it's been a pleasure doing this with you at this late night. So thank you so much, Pedri. for the engagement. Thank you so much, Nova Bro, for always being part of us. Tester from South Africa, although you've already left. Big shout out to you, Spirit of LFC fans. Thank you so much. Who else? Football Royale. It's always a pleasure. Then Pratham Sati, it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Fatrus Ali, always a pleasure to see you around. Samdam, good to have you there from Morocco. Dixie, it was a pleasure to have you. Agafanov from Russia, always a pleasure to see you around, my friend. Who else? MK Witcher, MK Witchit, MK Watch It, who said bonjour. I think I missed your comment at the start of the podcast, but thank you so much for chipping in. But always a pleasure, Mr. Pedri, for always being with us for our respective podcasts. I think Nibbling should put pressure on Southampton. He's a 19-year-old. He's only his representatives can do that, but also I feel that the 40 million asking fee is still a bit high for him. What you do is that, okay, let him go for maybe 30 to 35 and insert on a future release on clause, which will help you in the future. Let him live. Yeah, he was earlier on linked with big teams, including Man United, but also the other player that. By the way, speaking of midfielders, one of the midfielders that Liverpool could target in this transfer window is Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace. So while it's not been mentioned anywhere in the press in recent times, it's one of those reports that did dominate the press at the start of the transfer window. At the tail end of the transfer of the last season, 40 million euros or pounds. They're asking for 40 million pounds at the moment, but that's too much. That's too much, really. Yeah. Otherwise, Adam Wharton is a hidden gem. Yeah. By the way, he was also linked with the potential move to Real Madrid and Barcelona. That's how a good, people in the football world think he is. Anyways, it's been a pleasure, Pedri. Have yourself a blessed night. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye bye for now.